Hey everyone, welcome back to the Food Freedom series. If you have not been following along with the other videos, wherever you may be watching on YouTube, check out the YouTube playlist. If you're in the Tina Weiland Fitness Client Academy, my all access resource library for clients, you can find all the videos and downloads in there. But other than that, we're going to dive into a really big question that I get from a lot of people is the truth about processed foods, because you'll hear in the nutrition space that we always refer to processed foods, and we may assume that processed equals bad, but that's not necessarily the case, and a lot of people don't even necessarily know what I mean when I say processed foods, so we're going to take care of that. So what this shows, first thing we have is a sliding scale. You could see highly processed foods at the bottom going all the way up to whole foods, because that's another question I get. What are whole foods? What are whole nutrient dense foods? So we have, let's start at the bottom, highly processed foods. These barely resemble their whole food origins and have minimal nutrition value. So that's the big thing that we're seeing. The more processed a food is, the more the nutrition's pulled out of it for one reason or another. It could be simply a food created kind of out of nothing, like something like candy, where you kind of just mix a ton of things together to create a whole new product because it's so processed. Another thing is things for like shelf stability, preserving the flavor, maybe adding a certain flavor, different things like that, that requires something to be processed. Maybe make it for ease of use when you're, something to quickly heat up or it doesn't melt or whatever. Like down here you can see like American cheese. It's a little bit more processed. It's kind of cheese made of nothing. I actually don't even know how they make it, but they give you in the little plastic sleeves, so you just pop it open, it's pre-sliced, you put it on, flavors there, it's ready to go. So that's going to be highly processed. Then we have a step up, which is moderately processed. These have been altered more significantly, often reducing nutritional value by removing or adding components. So something like orange juice, right? So it is an orange juice of an orange, but usually they add some sugar. They will actually add back in vitamins and stuff. Not a bad thing, but usually our body tends to absorb stuff a little bit better if we just get it straight from the source versus it being more like artificial and processed. Here this looks like maybe rice, I'm assuming, maybe like white rice where they strip it, or even like ready minute rice. Again, not a bad option, but there might be some more like kind of unnecessary chemicals and preservatives in there for you to be able to heat it up quickly so it's shelf stable. There's a lot that goes into that, okay? Then we have minimally processed foods, slightly altered without substantially changing the nutritional content. So these are just kind of what I more so refer to for people who are on the go, that we can't prepare everything from scratch and have these beautiful, picked an apple from the tree, natural meals, kill our own chicken or cow or whatever to have our own meat. Things like, it looks like this might be sauerkraut in here. So, they just kind of add in vinegar and different things, and it's all natural ingredients, but they preserve it naturally. I don't know why. Is that corn? I guess that they're saying with the corn, it could be maybe the pesticides that they put on it, or if it's genetically modified for growth, maybe for size and taste and things like that. And then of course a big one is frozen fruits and vegetables. They're flash frozen at the point of peak freshness, so oftentimes these are better than what you may get in the fresh section, but they might still put some like preservatives in here, some light preservatives, just like to maintain flavor and so they don't turn brown and things like that. So there is minimally processed, which is really hard to get away from, and then whole foods. They're the form they're found in nature or very close to it. So think of pretty much almost, I'd say, whole foods and minimally processed is going to be the outside of your grocery store. Your meats, the yogurts, dairy, that's going to be a little bit questionable. They're probably going to be more minimally processed, up to moderately processed, but definitely your produce section is basically going to be your whole foods, okay? And then even in the middle aisles, when you have like bags of beans, like when you get the bulk bags of rice, bags of beans, kind of those plain solid food sources, that's also going to be your whole foods. So you can see it's a sliding scale here, like you can see the trend in nutrition, right? It's a sliding scale. If you haven't gone back and watched the video of picking quality macro sources, this is very similar to that. It shows you kind of what better options to pick, and then, what you should kind of have less of. It's not like it's totally off limits, but usually the more we consume of this, the less likely we are to reach our goals, the more likely we're to have certain health problems like high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, things like that. So it's a sliding scale. And the interesting thing about this that we kind of figured out too when we were going over the picking quality macros is that it seemed like the things that were in the green good section were less processed, and the ones that tended to be more in the reds and the yellows were more processed, and the even more processed that it got, you saw more in the red zone. And that's kind of the trend that you're going to see for nutrition. You want to get away from the processed stuff, not saying you have to eliminate it. I enjoy my Diet Cokes, I enjoy my, butters and things like that. Dinosaur chicken nuggets, who doesn't love them? But, it shouldn't encompass your whole diet. We want to have more of these and less of this, okay? But moving on to the next section here, I sort of briefly touched on this before, but the 3 benefits of minimally processed foods. Popular diets differ over a lot, right? Keto, paleo, Whole30, Mediterranean. There's so many different ones out there. There's hundreds. But they do agree on this. Base your diet around minimally processed foods. Unless it's a diet that's trying to sell you some sort of product, which those are usually garbage to begin with, like some sort of MLM that has like an overpriced, like, hey, buy our supplement or buy our shakes, and then that's how you're going to reach your goal. That's a red flag. But if we look at more so like food-based diets where you're just consuming, regular food, not a brand name, it's definitely base your diet around minimally processed foods. So here's the 3 benefits. They help you meet your nutritional needs. Your health will benefit, and you'll more easily regulate weight and appetite. Okay, so let's go over the first one. They'll help you meet your nutrition needs. The greater the degree of processing, the more additives such as sugar, refined starch, unhealthy fats, sodium preservatives and fillers, and then the less fiber and micronutrients like essential fatty acids. And this is what I see a lot with clients when, they do nutrition coaching with me, when they track their nutrition. That's the big thing. It's not necessarily that like what they're eating is quote unquote bad, and they could even be within their calorie goal, but I see a really big imbalance of nutrients. So like they're really heavy on sugars, fats, carbs. It's kind of messing with their digestion, how they store fat, their hunger cues, and then they're lacking all the nutrients that their body needs to function in the right way, which is why they're feeling like garbage, even though maybe they're in their calorie range, and they may be losing some weight, but their body just doesn't look or feel quite how they want it to, and that's where less processed foods come in, okay? Then your health will benefit. A diet rich in minimally processed whole foods is associated with lower rates of depression, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer. Overall, the general consensus is that humans are healthier when they consume more whole foods and fewer highly processed ones. Okay, nothing wrong with that, right? It's kind of fun to try to do it too, once you get the hang of it. And then 3, you'll more easily regulate weight and appetite. This is another thing that I see with nutrition coaching. When you tend to eat those whole or processed foods, you get all the nutrients you need, your hunger cues kind of regulate, and you feel a lot better. So, like I was just saying, they usually contain more satiating, boosting nutrients. So more fiber, more protein. You can see a little swap here. So instead of apple juice and goldfish crackers, that looks like, go for a real apple and almonds, right? So kind of similar taste, but more protein, more fiber. Take longer to eat. Processed foods, they're actually genetically modified. We had a whole kind of series of this when I was in psychology in college. They will modify your food to make it melt in your mouth very quickly and kind of have this big powerful burst that comes along and goes away because it's engineered to make you want to keep eating more. Perfect example, potato chips. Did you ever just have that food that you eat a couple, but the more you eat, it's almost like the more you want? They do that on purpose. Non-processed, whole nutrient-dense foods will not do that to you. They're just normal foods. They're not modified to try to sell more. I mean, some of them will modify them to make them juicier and taste better, but not to the extent of potato chips and chocolate and things like that. So processed foods tend to be about 10 chews a bite, while whole foods are 25 chews a bite. And then they'll fill you up on fewer calories, and then again, that's another thing that I see. You may be getting a ton of calories if you eat a McDonald's meal, but then you're going to be hungry in an hour or two, versus if maybe you had something similar, instead of chicken nuggets and fries for 220 calories, maybe you do grilled chicken nuggets with a baked potato and you're saving some calories, but the fiber and the nutrients and the balance of macros is going to keep you fuller longer. So should you give up on processed foods? No, because, everything in moderation, and we're not on the extreme scale of all or nothing, right? There is some benefits. So some processed foods are actually good for you. So for instance, like store prepared hummus, it saves you time. You don't have to make everything from scratch. This is kind of where that extremeness comes in. We don't want to freak ourselves out so much and be like, oh my God, everything's processed. I have to make it on my own. Some things that could be easy, like I have a friend that makes peanut butter from scratch. She has a nice little blender. She buys different nuts and plays around with it. That's cool. It's easy to do. It's healthy. But don't go killing yourself trying to make everything from scratch because you feel like you're going to die if you eat processed foods. But like the prepared hummus, it's a good source of fiber, tastes good, and it's processed, but it's healthy. Because processed does not necessarily always mean unhealthy. Then we have protein powder. It is very protein dense. It's low cost per serving, depending on where you're at with your economic situation. Maybe you're in an area where you don't have a lot of protein available to you. Maybe you're vegan and you don't have a lot of protein options, and it's easy. So yes, it's a little bit processed, and it's not ideal to be having like a protein shake every single meal. But depending on your situation, if you're struggling to hit your protein goals and maybe you're on the go and this is just something that helps you hit your goals, it's fine. And then tofu, so it's easier than shelling, edamame, I think I pronounced that right, versatile flavor and rich source of calcium. And again, for my vegan, vegetarian friends, that's a great option. Certain processed foods undeniably make healthy eating more convenient and often more delicious. And that's a part of the processing. When we process foods, we alter them from their original state, hopefully to have a benefit. And then second, processed foods taste amazing. When consumed in moderation, they can help you connect with friends, boost mood, and experience pleasure. This goes to a part of health that I've chatted about before, saying that food isn't just to lose weight or maintain a healthy weight. Food is also community and culture. I always talk about how I've eaten ice cream, and everything in moderation. I still enjoy ice cream every now and then, and I have my Yasso bars, which is a healthier ice cream alternative, less processed, more nutrients, lower calories, all that fun stuff, because that's just how I grew up. My family would go for ice cream, and I know, if we were going out and having a good time at the end of the day, summer night, we'd go out for ice cream. And it's more of that emotional connection to me, and that's why I hold that dear. You can see they have beers here, might be a night out with friends, pizza and chips, and again, just don't do it all the time. And then third, progress is more important than perfection. I literally have like a hashtag and a phrase around this: progress, not perfection. My overall goal for you is I don't want you to completely just transform your diet and be like, well, I'm perfect now and nothing I eat is processed. No, how can we get better a little bit at a time? And then sometimes we're going to mess up. That's cool. We'll learn from our mistakes and then build it back up again. Again, it's that sliding scale. So you can see a couple things here of like how to make some things a little bit better. Maybe you're in the red and yellow. How can we kind of some of the time or a lot of the time move into this yellow and green area? So like with grains, rice puff cereal, then, white rice is a little better, brown rice is best. Vegetables, you could do sweet potato pie, sweet potato fries, and sweet potato. A good example of being a little bit better, for instance, for a meal, I might want to do burgers and fries. A lot of the times I'll opt for the sweet potato fries versus maybe regular french fries or like mac and cheese, a more processed, heavier side. So sweet potato fries is not perfect, but it's a better option. If I want to get really fancy, maybe I'll do like sweet potato chips, homemade, baked, things like that. But if I don't have the time, I'm just going to get like Alexia's or Alexia's sweet potato fries because they're delicious. Fruit. So this was a classic one. We see apple juice to applesauce to apple. And even the no sugar or no added sugar applesauce is a great option. Great option for baking, to add as a sweetener. Beans and legumes, black bean tortilla chips to refried black beans to black beans. I'm kind of shocked with this because I heard the processing of refried black beans is pretty bad. So I would assume that the black bean tortilla chips are better than the black beans, but who knows. Meat and poultry, chicken nuggets to rotisserie chicken to baked whole chicken. I love rotisserie chicken, usually shredded without the skin on it, to use for like salads and grab and go stuff because it holds flavor really well. You don't have to heat it up, but you can, but it comes cold and it lasts like 3 to 5 days. It's great. You don't have to like meal prep chicken. Fish and seafood, so popcorn shrimp canned in oil and seasoning. And then fresh whole shrimp. I didn't even know that they did this. Nuts and seeds. We have peanut butter cookies, peanut butter, shelled peanuts. And then dairy and eggs, Rocky Road ice cream. Oh, that's a delicious choice. Fruit at the bottom, yogurt, and then milk. So again, you could do these categories for like hundreds of different things, but they're just kind of giving you some examples, okay? Then we have boost your consumption of minimally processed foods in 3 easy steps. So 1, we got to decide what upgrades are worth it. 2, set aside time to prepare the item. And 3, experiment. I love how this is laid out because this is kind of how my brain operates, and this is important. So decide what upgrades are worth it. So we have big nutritional gain, little nutritional gain, higher effort versus lower effort. So you can kind of look at the little charts here, but big nutritional gain and higher effort. Well, I guess we want big nutritional gain and lower effort. So breaded chicken nuggets, you're definitely going to benefit from the protein. You really just sacrifice with the breading. Store-bought muffins or baked goods, fast food smoothie or iced beverage, commercial cereals, frozen entree, homemade meal from mostly Whole Foods, homemade oatmeal, homemade smoothie. You can kind of see the swaps here. Low sugar, high fiber muffin, and then the baked crispy chicken. I kind of read that wrong. I thought it was like each quadrant, but they're showing you, big nutritional gain, how to switch from one to the other. And these are pretty simple swaps. And you don't have to do it every day. Maybe try it 2 or 3 days for the week and kind of bump up what you're doing. Then we have little nutritional gain, going from like canned beans to like the fresh beans. Not a huge deal, but if you really want to do it, you can. Pre-chopped salad versus doing your own. Commercially prepared sauces, hummus, guac to homemade, and now they even have better like organic options available for you to buy. Frozen corn to real corn, store-bought rotisserie chicken to roasting your chicken at home. This is the one that I was talking about. Like, you're not really going to make a huge difference here. It's more so if you have the time and you really want to do it. For instance, like, even if I make a recipe, there might be something I want to make from scratch versus just buying it. So little things like that. Then we have set aside time to prepare these things. So schedule time in the week to shop for and prepare a few meals based around minimally processed foods, and try batch cooking, buying ready to eat minimally processed foods like pre-cut veggies, pre-cooked proteins, rotisserie chicken, frozen stuff. You can do a meal service, all those kinds of things. There's ways to kind of meal prep without the standard meal prep of like, okay, we're going to bulk make like chicken, broccoli, and rice, and it's going to be disgusting, and I'm going to eat every day for the rest of the week, right? And then 3, this one's most important, is experiment. Over the years, I've just learned, and things have changed, but I'll like try a meal, throw it into my rotation, and I'll either love it, so then it becomes a regular part of my rotation, because I'm like, it checks all the boxes. It's healthy, it's easy to make, it's delicious, it reheats well. Like, I kind of look for certain things, and sometimes I try stuff and I'm like, well, I'm not going to make that again. And you live and you learn, and eventually you kind of build up a routine, and maybe you get tired of something and you add something new in. So that is key. But yeah, so that's actually the end of my little infographic here, okay? So I hope that kind of cleared things up for you on what processed foods actually are, and how processed foods aren't necessarily always bad, but how we should aim to be a little bit better with our choices. And it's really about weighing your pros and cons, and I just talked about this, about self-discovery and knowing your own self, and seeing kind of what's worth it for you and what's not. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, like doing the tofu, like there's a lot of higher processed things in the vegan and vegetarian world, just because you can't use traditional meat or things like that. So there's a lot of processing to tweak things to get them to taste good. So that might be something, that you enjoy the benefits over the cons of things. Protein powder, quick ready things like hummus, because it's way harder to make it from scratch. So little things like that. Weigh your pros and cons, see your current diet, and think about, how can I make this a little bit less processed? How can I make this a little bit better? Okay. Thanks for tuning in, guys, into this next video, into the Food Freedom series. I hope you enjoyed, and that's all for now. Bye.